Welcome back to Health Kindness here on Northwest Digital News. Kevin Hunter with Jody Summers. And Jody, you're going to share some of your favorite books here today on the subject of health. And I want to share this with people who may not be avid readers. There's a really interesting thing. One of the business folks that I work with, they actually force their clients to regularly read, because this is how important it is to the mind, and then just learning new skills, new ideas, all that sort of thing. And so they have them put into their goals to read 10 minutes a day. And do you know how many books you read a year when you read 10 minutes a day?
I have no idea.
3 books a year if you read just 10 minutes a day. And so on average, that's what it'll be. And the more you make that 10-minute goal something that you complete, you'll find that you'll easily read 15 minutes, easily read 20 minutes, and you might end up reading 6 or 7 books for the year. But you will read 3 books if you read 10 minutes a day on average.
Interesting.
So let's talk about these books that you recommend.
Can I just jump in here? We didn't talk about this at all, but you're going to find this interesting. So I am not a good reader. I struggle to read. I actually dropped out of high school when I was 16. I ended up going back to college and getting my several college degrees. But I think part of it was a home issue, but also there was some struggles there for me. When I realized I was an auditory learner as an adult, now I have an Audible account, and I read, I think I read 57 books last year. And I'm probably going to read about 65 this year if I keep up the pace that I'm going now. And I could never have done this broadcast had it not been for Audible. All but one of these did I read. I read one of them in real life hard copy, because I don't even know that it's available Audible. And the others I've read all on Audible. That is amazing. Some of them I've read twice. So, it just depends. You have to find your way of learning, because 10 minutes a day for me is a struggle. It's not a struggle, but I have to have it completely silent where I can read in the car and it just sinks in. I'm just a different learner. So, find your style of learning and then go with it.
So I'm envisioning you driving down the road. I'm envisioning you driving down the road and holding this book over here and going, well, that's really interesting. Whoa! No, I'm just kidding. I know you're listening to an audiobook in the car. And I've actually done that many times myself as well. I love audio learning. So I'm glad you brought that up, because there's more than one way to get through these books. So let's talk about Omnivore's Dilemma.
In fact, on the Audible, there is every person who knows that I listen to a lot of Audible. This is my favorite book of all time. I mean, seriously, beyond health, it is the best reader. He's amazing. So if you go to Audible, this particular book has an amazing reader, and it is a book that everybody can benefit from. It's not just about health, although it's about health. It's not just about history, although it's about history. Michael Pollan he's written a lot of books about food, but this one I think is, and I've read them all, this one I think is his best by far. It takes a look at food from many different perspectives, from history, from politics, from health. And one of my favorite parts of this book is he will follow 2 different cows, one that's raised on a local, organically very ethical farm that is moved around. The little guy's given a name, but then it's slaughtered, and then you look at the nutritional quality of that on the plate compared to a CAFO, which is a concentrated animal feed lot of some kind, where they're all given numbers, and then it takes you through that cow's life, how it is slaughtered, and the nutritional content of that product. Same animal, raised differently, has different nutritional values, different for your own body. And then, he covers corn and how corn infiltrates our food system. This is, if you could just read one book for entertainment purposes, as well as if you like history, this would be a great book. My favorite book of all time is this one. I could talk on this book. I told my daughter I was doing this broadcast, and she goes, I know what book's going to be on there. It's a great book. Great book.
Well, one of the interesting things that you said is that it even talks about politics as it impacts food. Interesting that politics sneaks its way into absolutely everything, isn't it?
It is. And it's not really biased one way or the other. It just talks about how, corn farmers, how government subsidizes, how that got started, what that means now, what that looks like now. So it's not necessarily a political bias one way or the other. It's
Mhm.
just about how that works in the big food industry.
All right, so let's talk about deep nutrition.
Okay. So the second one here is for those people who want a much deeper, more rich view of actual food itself and how it applies to the body. Again, this is literally, I consider this the Bible of nutrition. She takes an approach of a much more historical, looks at the pillars that are needed for health
Hmm.
and looks at different cultures, is a little bit based on Weston Price. So some of those same principles that Weston A. Price, who was a dentist and looked at different cultures and different diets that cultures had and traditional people had, a lot of it is based on that type of looking at food. But it covers the what you should stay away from as well as what you should eat and the science that goes with it. It is, again, very good read, very deep. It's not for your average light reading day, but again, this is one that if you're really interested in why hydrogenated oil is bad and why stable fats are good, she explains it in great detail. And then again, with the Audible book, you can, if you go with Audible, you can download the PDF and then see the visual. She'll give you the structure of the teeth and the structure of the bones. And again, just a really in-depth book about traditional food and how it affects the body.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
I
great book.
like one of the subtitle that says why your genes need traditional food. It's
Yeah.
man, so much processing has gone into the food these days. Incredible.
And again, I think when you hear this, she talks about the science, but it's not so sciencey that you can't follow it. It is when you know the reason behind something, you're more likely to pick a better food for you. So,
All right, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. A lot of people are familiar with this, written by
yes,
Dr. Joel Wallach. Um,
yep,
I've read this book myself too. Why do you like Dead Doctors Don't Lie? I'm curious.
don't lie. Um, Again, I think it talks a little about. I guess I'm a history person. I didn't even know that until I got into the food. But it talks about the history of food and how when people years ago would use wood and they would burn, in their homes or whatever, and then they would take that wood ash and put it in the garden, and it would put minerals back into the soil,
Hmm.
and how for generations generation after generation after generation, only until recently has that not been the way farmers farmed. They would
Hmm.
farm with animals on their farm, and then that would go into the soil. Now we don't do that. Now it's industrial farming and it's chemical fertilizer and it's all that. And so what's happened is the foods that are produced from these don't have the minerals and the depth of nutrition that we used to get. And Dr. Joel Wallach is a genius.
Hmm.
He's also, um, there are some things I disagree with because he can get on off on other subjects, which is fine. They're his personal beliefs and all, but from a nutritional standpoint about how minerals are deficient in our food system and the importance of minerals, this is the Bible of minerals. The other thing too, and we've talked about this here, is that minerals, and they're so in general, essential means your body needs to eat it or
Hmm.
supplement, and there's 60 essential minerals, there's 16 essential vitamins. And people think that vitamins are really important. Well, your body can make a lot of those vitamins or you can get them from food, but minerals are the precursors to the enzymes that help your body assimilate vitamins. So if you're deficient in minerals, even if you have enough vitamins, you're not going to absorb those like you should. So this book really talks about the importance of minerals, how our food has changed over the years, and how you can replenish your body with those important things to just, no matter what food you eat, absorb more nutrition.
You know, it's interesting when you're mentioning that how minerals are the precursors to vitamins, is that I've actually shared that with people that I know have been dealing with health-related issues, helping them understand a little bit of that, and I learned that from you. And I think that's interesting that, you know, when you think about all the supplements that you can buy, it's always listed in the other order. It always says vitamins and minerals. It doesn't say minerals and vitamins. And that's really the way that it should be.
And there's 2/3 of our nutrition is minerals and only 1/3 is vitamins. So it's like, yeah, you know, it's interesting. And again, the one thing that he does talk a lot about is, even in this book, and if you listen to me as a radio show and things, you can call in and ask questions. He is a genius, truly. But the one thing is that he talks about the mainstream medical and how, you know, you're not deficient in pharmaceutical drugs, you're deficient in nutrition. And I just pulled up something to read, which I haven't read it, it's just on my computer, from the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, on how the vast majority of heart patients who go into the hospital are nutrient deficient. And I thought, bingo, we've been talking about this for years. And it's just now looking, you know, mainstream medical is just now looking at that. So again, this is a really good book about basic mineral nutrition.
And to your point, heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States. Let's talk about Undoctored, why healthcare has failed you and how you can become smarter than your doctor. I would add to that to say, with regard to nutrition.
Absolutely. And this guy is a medical doctor, and you know, it's clearly that's what it's about. It's not necessarily that that you're even smarter, but just you've learned to read your body's signals. You've learned to do some of the things. And this is the same doctor who wrote Wheat Belly. And I went in a little bit skeptical because I don't particularly love the name, because I think you do need a doctor. I do, you know, I think there are time and a place for both.
Yep.
But I came out of this, and this is a book I read last month, so it's brand new to me. In addition to talking about the failure, he really talks about how when you're given a diagnosis, and you can't be given a diagnosis without seeing a doctor, so you can't really be undoctored. And it was the name that I almost didn't put this in here, but the premise is fabulous. So when you come out with a diagnosis, what are some things that you can do for that specific issue that will either support your body healing itself or support your body through whatever treatment that you might need. It was very well written, and he gives a perspective that you may not get, let's say, from somebody who was not a medical doctor, you know, because he has all that history of being in that world for, you know, years and years and years. Again, it was a very good Audible book. Yeah, it was really interesting. I was sad that it ended.
All right, book number 5. What do we got up on the list here? The Complete Guide to Fasting. This is a subject that I absolutely love. Absolutely love this to death. So talk about why this is one of your favorite books.
So Dr. Jason Fung is a genius. And again, you know, he's right up there for me with Dr. Wallach. He is a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor out of Canada, who for years and years saw patients who had diabetes, and the mainstream medical was giving them a diet that was not making them any better. Literally, he was seeing their symptoms get worse through the years and needing, you know, gaining more weight and needing insulin, needing more medication. And he looked at the protocol and said, you know, it just seems backwards. And so then really started working with his patients, having success that was beyond, I mean, just really huge successes with his patients. And then wrote several books. One is called The Obesity Code. One is called The Diabetic Code. And this one, if you just read one, is my very favorite. It's called The Complete Guide to Fasting. And it talks about alternate day, short-term and extended, and the benefits that it can provide to your body. Again, he writes in a way that gives you the science behind it in addition to the success, and then tells you how to do it. So this is a plan. If you're interested in fasting, there's no better book than this one right here. And the reader is actually quite good if you get the Audible version as well. Jimmy Moore, who I've met several times. Again, he's a faster and a low carb guy. But anyway, Dr. Fung explains the benefits. So if you have any kind of issues with blood sugar, this would be a great book, or fatty liver, this would be a great book to read.
You know, I would add to this to say that from my own personal experiences, there's no question at all that eating the right kinds of foods and having the right kind of diet is like, I heard actually a person who's a big gym nut, personal trainer, everything else, and he said, he was talking to a client, and he said, you can't out-train a bad diet. And I thought that was just fabulous to hear that coming from somebody who spends a lot of time in the gym. But so here's an interesting thing. Part of my history with fasting is I did a lot of fasting over the years, and there was always this extended fasting. So I would do initially when I first started this, I'd do 3-4 days at a time. Then I eventually moved to a week. I was doing regularly. Then maybe twice a year I would do 10 to 13 days at a time, and I would do this because I discovered it was a reset button for the complications I was experiencing with arthritis, that the inflammation would go away, the hurting joints would go away, and that would have a lasting effect for a number of months. And then, of course, I'd go back to my bad diet in between there. So I needed that reset button. And now today we use intermittent fasting in conjunction with a significantly improved diet.
Correct.
And I can tell you that those two things combined, the right diet combined with fasting, oh my gosh, does it change how you feel?
I can't even tell you. Like, if I just wish I could bottle up how good I feel. And have somebody experience it. The one thing that I really like about this book is I think that Jason Fung is going to change the face of obesity in this country. He is going to lead the pack. The other thing is that I find on the clients who I've worked with, or the people who I know who have done a lot of fasting, went to their doctor. Get this, they go to their doctor, so they have high blood sugar. They go to their doctor, they've done some fasting, low carb, that kind of thing. The results are great. And the doctor says, oh, this is really great. Well, I've been fasting. Oh, no, that's dangerous. You shouldn't do that. In the same appointment. Like,
oh my gosh.
The people come in with success. They're doing better. They're so much healthier. The client or the patient says, this is what I've been doing. And still, mainstream medicine will oftentimes say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not healthy. When it's crazy.
Like Bill Engvall says, here's your side.
That's right.
Yeah, a big clue for them there, and they're still not getting it. The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. This is a great title. Talk about this book a little bit.
Absolutely. And Dr. Winter, she is in her maybe mid-40s now, but when she was young, when she was 19, she was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer at 19.
Wow.
Okay. And literally said, there's nothing else we can do for you. You know, I'm so sorry. And somebody sent her, and I should have looked it up before I came, but somebody sent her a book about nutrition. And she thought, what do I have to lose? I have 0 to lose. So she did that. And I don't remember which one it is, what book it was. But anyway, so she got better. She was doing better. She lived longer than they said she would live. She would go to the doctor, and her cancer was getting better. And it's like, it was it is associated with the as a metabolic disease. And there is a book called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. And basically it's a low carb. She gives real life ways to approach, if you have been diagnosed with cancer, real things to do, not just the science behind it. But again, these books that I'm choosing they have science behind them, and she shows the whole last part of it is nothing but just a list of scientific studies that supports what she says in the book. But then she has this is how you do this. This is how you change your diet. This is how you fast. So it's a guide to a daily living approach to supporting your body to protect it from cancer, as well as, you know, if you're in recovery. Yeah, so, and now she's thriving, 2 healthy boys, no evidence of disease at all, you know, doing great.
You know, what's
Again,
really interesting
proves
is
a lot.
when you think about foods, specific foods, and you're aware of, you know, dozens of different types of foods or things that you can consume that actually cause inflammation, for example. And one of the conversations that I had with a doctor who's actually well established in the business of helping people get well through nutritional alternatives, talked about the pH of cancer and then the pH of where healthy cells were. And his basic explanation was to say, think of a cell that grows both hot and fast, that's a cancer cell, compared to a healthy cell that grows cool and slow. So he explained those two things, and he goes, when people get cancer, they wonder, how does a cancer just blow up into this, you know, can be this huge tumor at specific times. And he said, because it's a very fast growing cell that also grows with heat. So he said fast and hot, cool and slow. And all the good foods encourage this cool and slow type growing in cells.
Not in those exact words, but like talks about inflammation and how it feeds cancer, and then what foods cause this inflammatory response. So again, same theory, maybe just in different words. But yeah, so really, really great book. I couldn't pick 5, I had to pick 6.
There you go. All right, so it is Jody Summers' top 6 books, you guys. Jody is absolutely amazing when it comes to nutrition, so I totally recommend you go out and get these books. And if you don't like to read, do it like Jody did. Right. Get yourself some audiobooks. You know, I love that you said that, because there's, you know, even when I've created videos over the years, I've always taken into consideration that there's the visual learner, the audio learner, and the person that likes to read. And I incorporate all 3 of those learning styles into video that I create. And it's really important that you as an individual understand your learning style. And by you figuring that out, you came out of those challenges as a youth, and in your adult life, well, you've become a master of learning about nutrition. So that's fantastic. All right, Kevin Hunter with Jody Summers here on Health Kindness. We'll include the links for those books for you, by the way, in the live stream. Thanks, everybody who joined us. I hope you learned something about being healthier the kind way. Talk to you next time.